This is Marketing Jam, a podcast featuring the brightest minds in Canadian marketing.
Hey, welcome back to Marketing Jam. Shaheed Devji here, and I'm sitting next to Paula Skaper of Kinetix Media Communications. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we want to talk about content. But that's what you do, right? Content marketing.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
So we're a marketing automation company specialized in marketing automation. So what we focus on is lead development and content-driven lead development.
Okay.
So part of what we do is help companies put their systems and structures in place so that they can solve some of those marketing challenges, and then we help them create the content that they need.
So we're sitting at CIMC 2018,
Yes.
and you just finished on stage, and you were talking about sort of the rat race of content marketing. And it's a bit ironic, right? Because like you said, you make your living with content marketing, but a lot of people are jumping into that game for the sake of jumping into that game. Maybe talk a little bit about what that looks like and why people are doing that, you think?
Well, it's overwhelming right now with what's going on in marketing. I mean, the entire ecosystem has just exploded. There's so many different platforms, and every time something new comes out, everybody rushes to, and the experts, we rush to applaud it and talk about how great it is. We get excited. But from a business perspective, it's a little overwhelming. And so people have really, for the last 10 years, just been running to try and keep up. And they're jumping into things right away. And there's not really been a lot of information about should I, shouldn't I. We're so afraid of being that surfer on the beach the day after the big tidal wave, wondering what we missed, that we jump in sometimes too soon.
Yeah, that state of technological advancement, it used to be 18 months, right? And now you'd be hard-pressed to go 18 days without something new in the news, right? So jumping on the ship is certainly common. But in terms of what's tried and tested, what I've been hearing from a lot of people I've been talking to is the tried and tested obviously is still the best way to go, but you're talking about watching others try the new stuff and then jumping into it.
Yeah.
So not necessarily not to avoid the new things, but to gather the data is basically it, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality is, most of us are working for smaller businesses. Most, especially here in the Lower Mainland, our businesses are not multinational corporations. And so we have to be really judicious about where we put our marketing dollars, because every penny we spend over here is a distraction from something over there. And so it's really managing that risk. What percentage of our budget are we going to risk? And let's let some of the bigger players dip their toes in the water, take a few of those early risks, learn from what they're doing, and then we can, smaller businesses can jump in. It doesn't feel like sexy innovation, but the reality is that if we want to stay in business, if our clients want to stay in business, that's important for them to be thinking about.
So where I work, we've got social media people, digital ads people, SEO people, content people like myself. And you mentioned, people are working in silos, and especially away from the sales team.
Yep.
Often, in our case, the sales team is the client, right? So how do you suggest that the agency and all the people working on the marketing for the client, which is really the sales team, how can we work better together?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's not one with an easy answer, because as an agency, we tend to be working with marketing, and there's sort of that wall.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we do, we ask to meet with the sales team early on. That initial meeting is really, really important. I'm finding that our work is changing. We're less of a traditional agency where it's about the creative idea for the client, and more of a strategic partner where we're working alongside part of the team. And so we are bringing the sales team into those meetings. We are having those buyer's journey conversations that include sales, that include that conversation. And I'm as likely to be hired today by a sales manager as I am by a marketing manager.
Yeah, that's right. And there's lots of overlap, right?
Yeah.
One of the pieces of content that is as popular as ever today is video. You're not saying to shy away from video,
God,
though,
no.
right?
I do. I mean, video production. We've got a studio in our office as part of what we do. Just again,
Be smart
about it. Yeah.
And so, with regards to video, you mentioned a couple things, but how can you be smart with video?
I think it's about really thinking about what you're getting for every dollar that you spend. So, one of the things that we tend to do as small businesses, and I own a small business, so guilty as charged. We look at something new and we say, how can I do this without having to spend any more money than necessary. And so we'll go out and we'll buy a camera, and we'll go out and we'll go on Amazon and we'll buy a light kit for $100, and we'll set it up thinking that what we have is professional video. But we don't. We have semi-professional video equipment that we're using to produce, amateur video. Some companies can hire someone on staff that has some experience, but a lot of times we're asking people to step out and do things that they don't have any foundation to do for us. So what I'd love to see people doing is actually investing more in working with a partner, maybe produce less content, but produce better quality content, right? Have the storyboard. So you'll love that.
I love that, absolutely. Storyboarding is my life. And oftentimes, I don't have enough time to do that. So because we're trying to produce a lot in a short time. You mentioned 40 blog posts a month, which seems like a lot. But some people, are trying to achieve that type of goal, even if the means aren't there.
Yeah.
And then you're diluting the content, like you said. So one thing you mentioned, and we mentioned to all our clients, basically, is to build your email lists.
Big time.
But you put it in a different way, and I found it very interesting, was to convert your social following into email subscribers, and not just try and build your email subscribers from scratch, right? Because you've got a following there. But why do you suggest doing that? Are we at a point where these social platforms are seeing maybe an exodus?
Well, let me ask you a question. Yeah. Would you rather own your house or rent it?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Economics is,
I'd rather own
Vancouver,
my house, for sure. Yeah.
Right? Because when you own it, you have an investment that's going to grow.
I'm paying myself for the bank, right?
Your social media audience is a rented house. You don't own it, and it can go away in a heartbeat. And I have seen it happen to clients where something changes in an algorithm. Somebody on their team does something that breaches a term and condition. Whatever. There are all sorts of crazy reasons.
Yeah.
Social media audience completely gone overnight. And you have no legal recourse to get that back. So you've invested thousands, tens of thousands, depending on your size, hundreds of thousands of dollars in building this audience, and it's rented. Your email list you own. Even if you can't email that database anymore, you still have the names, the email addresses. You can upload it to Facebook and advertise against it. You can, use it in a million different ways, but you own it. And so that's really why we encourage our clients to get as many of those social fans into the email database as possible, because they're less vulnerable. So it's about, protecting your investment, really.
Email has been around for as long as the internet has, and if we assume the internet's going to be around for a long time, is email then going to stick around? Is that going to be sort of the most, I guess, safe way of reaching a consumer, you think?
Well, they said video was going to kill the radio star, and we all still have radios.
Yes, barely though.
Barely.
Yeah.
But
or in a different format.
The format has changed. Your Facebook ID is an email address.
Yeah.
It's a number at facebook.com. As our lives progress, and our life conditions progress, the way that we engage with media changes. It's not just about what's new, it's about what's going on in somebody's life.
Yeah.
The way I engaged with media as a 22-year-old was completely different than the way I engaged with media 15 years later as a mother of 2 young children, is completely different than the way I engage with media today. And it's not just that the media has changed, but I've changed as a buyer persona. And we all go through those changes in life. And when you're in college, being on Instagram 8 hours a day is no big deal, right? It's something to do whenever you're not studying. But when you start in the working world and people are emailing you documents and people are communicating with you, there's certain types of communication that belong in an inbox. They don't belong on Instagram or in a Facebook feed. Those changes actually drive more of our media consumption than we give them credit for. We tend to see technology as waves that are going to wash over the entire community, and they really aren't. They're just new choices that are going to fit different people at different stages in their lives in a completely different way. If you go into rural British Columbia, if you go up north into the oil fields, you'll find people that spend almost no time on a computer and look at you like you have horns growing out of your head that you can't put your phone down. Right? They're living in the same time as we are. So I think it's here to stay, but I don't think social's going anywhere either.
Right. Yeah, it might change format a little bit, right? But not going anywhere. So in your bio, I see here you're Canada's queen of email. Why do we say that?
Oh, because I'm old. I started in email marketing when it was starting.
Yeah.
I started in digital marketing when email was considered a place that you didn't market because it wasn't appropriate to market to someone in their inbox.
Right.
And it's just been where my career has landed, and so.
Are there any places like that now where it's not appropriate to market, or is anything fair game these days?
It feels like anything is fair game these days. I mean,
Yeah.
there was the guy yesterday that was talking about they're trying to turn your phone's lock screen into a billboard that you
Advertising
carry
spot,
around
yeah.
in your pocket. There are no sacrosanct places, really,
Yeah.
Anymore.
That's right.
And the irony of that, as we all go technologically advanced, is that we're actually seeing a resurgence in things like direct mail having results for our clients.
Unplugging a little bit, right?
Unplugging a little, yeah.
Yeah. I also see here that I wrote the word Netscape down, and that was part of your bio, but Netscape was one of the first browsers that we used, and I had a little bit of experience with it too. Well, do you miss anything else like that that's gone, like Netscape?
I don't think I miss it.
Yeah.
Netscape
was slow because we had slow internet back then.
Yeah. I look back at some of the things we did, and there are shameful moments now when I think of the fact that was cool and trendy.
Right.
Cartoon websites. Apple had a cartoon website at one point in time. Flaming logos. We thought they were a good idea.
Right, and now GIFs are popular again.
So.
Okay, so in terms of the rat race we were talking about a little earlier, you mentioned a few tips that can help us get out of the rat race and maybe be a little bit more focused. Can you share a few of those before we enter?
Sure. Yeah, I think the most important thing there's really three is to be less fearful of missing the boat and to give ourselves a little space, right? We're all rushing so hard and working so fast. You said it yourself. You don't have time to do a storyboard.
Yeah.
But we know that not doing that ultimately is going to hurt the quality of the product. So maybe we do less, but we do more with it. We try to do better with it. Being really aware of when we're sending a lead over to the sales team, and that's more of a B2B thing, but really being aware of, is that really what needs to happen? Are we sending it because it's a lead and we need to meet a quota? Or are we sending it because this person's actually indicating buying signals and they're ready to engage? And we cost ourselves sales when we fire them over too fast.
Yeah.
And then the final thing really is that we need to step up our game on those foundational pieces and just make sure that we're doing the best that we possibly can with the tools that we already have some mastery over before we start throwing more tools in the mix.
Yeah, one of those tools might be voice search. Are you dabbling in that at all?
Well, ironically, one of the things we've just started looking at is how Siri reads your email.
Okay.
Because you can hit your iPhone and go, Siri, read that email.
That's right.
She reads the first, I think it's 429 characters. We're really just looking at it. But that could be, a tracked link, so she's reading https://bit.ly.1234912,
Right.
and going on and on. So it's one of the things that we're looking at. What happens whenever a reader reads your email, and how do you optimize for that? And there are some strategies with the pre-header that you can use to extend that.
And lastly, you're running a business in Vancouver. There's, Vancouver's quite a hot tech scene these days, and a great place to start a business. What's it like running a business in Vancouver, especially marketing? Is it always busy for you, or are you noticing that all the startups in the tech world are kind of helping the marketing world get a boom into the industry as well?
I think it's changing. I've really noticed. I've had the business for 20 years. We were literally one of the first digital marketing agencies in the city that wasn't a website development company. I think there's us and Success, and we're about 3 weeks apart, in terms of the granddaddies. And over that time, the business has really changed. We started out doing more strategic work, more consulting work. Then companies needed implementation help, and so we were doing a lot more implementation. What's changing now is that there are so many really brilliant young graduates coming out of the universities. We figured out how to teach some of this stuff, and we've got digital natives coming out of university now that just didn't exist 20 years ago. And so companies have the option to bring a lot of that execution work in-house, and for a lot of cases it makes sense to do that, but they don't have the experience in-house. And so I'm seeing the pendulum swinging a little back to the other direction, where our value is as an agency today is really as that guide, that partner, that mentor. I'm doing a lot of work mentoring client teams today, a lot of helping them build a team, helping them train a team, helping them figure out how that's structured, how to use the tools. And the ultimate goal of a lot of our projects is to make ourselves redundant. It's kind of an interesting place to be.
Yeah. All right, well, I think the music is playing us out. So
there you go.
Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you. It's been fun.